8 past the hour. Here's Katie.
Matt, thank you. Tuesday morning's terrorist attacks in New York, Washington, and Pennsylvania came as a major surprise to the U.S. intelligence community. Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Senator Bob Graham and Vice Chair Senator Richard Shelby join us from Washington this morning. Gentlemen, good morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning, Katie.
One of the worst terrorist attacks in history in the world, perhaps the worst, occurred under your watch. What went wrong, Senator Graham?
We don't know the answer to that question now, Katie. Yesterday we had a briefing with the CIA and the FBI, and I asked them, as part of their analysis, if they would give us their best assessment of where the gaps were in our intelligence system that could have allowed such a thing to happen. My suspicion is we're going to find at the top of the list that we haven't been making the investment in human intelligence, the kind of spies that can get inside a terrorist cell, and that we've seen our eavesdropping capability go deaf as people begin to communicate through computers, for instance, as opposed to over the telephone.
So in other words, Senator Shelby, I know you agree with Senator Graham that we need to invest much more in people, spies, if you will, actually on the ground. But many experts say it is quite difficult, if not impossible, to infiltrate these terrorist cells, and they in fact have their own counter-terrorists in place to deal with potential people along the, of that nature.
Katie, that's exactly right. It will be very difficult, but it's not impossible to do this. But when we get caught flat-footed as we were Tuesday, this was a shock to the American people. It was a shock to a lot of us, too. But things like that will happen again. We have to make an overall new commitment to intelligence. I agree with Senator Graham on this. We've been advocating this, but I think more people are going to start listening starting a couple of days ago.
You all know, of course, that officials at the State Department, and I'm sure at every level of government in Washington, have been combing through communiques, any kind of letters, any kind of thing that might have indicated that this was about to transpire. Has anything glaring surfaced as they have done that?
They have not completed the review and not indicated to us what they have found, but you put your finger on a third issue, and that is we have the ability to collect an enormous amount of information. Now, we can fill the Library of Congress almost every day with the information that we are able to pull out of the air or to get by photographs.
Right.
Problem is, you've then got to have a human being who can sort through all that and figure out what of all that information is really relevant and important. We need to build up that part of our intelligence capability as well.
Katie, our collection, I believe, ability is very good, but our analytical ability, as Senator Graham alluded to, needs a lot of improvement. But on the committee that Senator Graham chairs, I used to chair, we will be doing our oversight work here because we cannot ever afford to be caught flat-footed like this again.
Senator Shelby, you were chair of this committee when the USS Cole was bombed and it was assumed or determined that Osama bin Laden was responsible. Well, why wasn't anything done to beef up intelligence then, or at least keep better track of his actions and his associates?
Well, it was. As a matter of fact, Senator Graham and I have been the leaders on the Intelligence Committee, and for appropriations, we have been pushing this. We're doing better. We've done a lot better in the last 5 years. This was a big intelligence failure, but there have been a lot of successes there. And I think in the future, you're going to see a lot more successes.
And Senator Graham, in closing, I know that you've mentioned that you would support lifting the U.S. self-imposed ban on assassinations. Why?
Frankly, that ban has been substantially altered by interpretation over the last several years. And the United States has had relationships with others which have given us the capability, if we think it's in our national interest, to render incapable a potential adversary.
Are you all surprised, I know that was supposed to be my last question, but one that comes to mind, that just how large a paper trail some of these suspects have left in this country, rental car agreements, going to flight school here in this country. Was that surprising to you?
Not surprising to me at all, because at the end game here, is destruction and, of course, their own self-destruction. They're pretty open in a sense, but they also keep it pretty close to them, Katie.
All right, Senator Richard Shelby and Senator Bob Graham. Again, gentlemen, thank you both very much for talking with us this morning. 8:13 now. Here's Matt.
Katie, the U.S. military